Hi, welcome to Teaching Moments. I'm Hillary. So a little while ago, I did a review on the Barton Reading Levels books 1 through 4. So today I'm going to do a review on books 5 and 6. So if you'd like to take a look at books 1 through 4, go ahead and look down at my videos and you will see them there and you can take a look there. Now, just if you are unfamiliar with the Barton Reading and Spelling curriculum, you do need to start with book 1 or level 1. You can't just start in the middle because you need to learn and build upon what you knew from the past. Whether you're teaching it or whether your student's doing it, you need to start at level 1. So knowing that, if you're looking at books 5 and 6, you can totally check these out, but you would need to start with book 1. Okay, so for those of you who've been doing it already, figuring out if you want to continue it or just kind of want to see what it's about in the middle-ish levels, we're going to be going through 5 and 6 today. So I'm going to think that you've already gone through books 1 through 4. So 4 is a doozy. 4 is a thick one. It's got like 14 lessons in it, which I think from what I've seen, I've done books 1 through 8 with my kids, with one of my kids, and the other ones are working their way through it. But I've never seen more than 14 lessons that I can remember. I can't remember how many book 8 has. It has quite a few as well. But book 5 has 10 lessons. So compared to book 4, book 5 seems like a breath of fresh air. Like it seems so much better, so much less intense. It goes over prefixes and suffixes, so it goes over the plural. So by the time a child is in level 5, even if they started level 1 at like 5 or 6 years old, by the time they get to level 5, I think they've already come across plurals in their reading or just, life. So it's so much easier to teach the plurals in book 5 because they've already been there. They get it really easy. It's an easy concept. And then they go on to like ed and ing. And again, those are easy concepts that by the time a child has reached book 5, they will probably understand it. And then also, so my youngest child started Barton Reading when he was about 6 or 7. My oldest child started Barton Reading when she was in 8th grade. So I have both ends of the spectrum. I'm on some different pages, and I watch the people who are homeschooling with Barton, and they get worried about their older child learning with Barton Reading, and sometimes they get worried about a child being too young. So I've kind of been in both spectrums. And my older child is really glad she did it anyway. She is actually a senior in high school. She just finished book 8, and because it's almost spring and she's going to be doing her graduation ceremony in a couple of months, we did not move her on to book 9, but she is going to be graduating with going through 8 levels of Barton, which is great. It has helped her so much. So if you have an older student who is doing Barton, do not worry. Just continue to go the course. Continue to teach them as long as they want. And I even told her that once you graduate from high school, it doesn't mean you're done learning. I told her I have the books to teach her siblings. If she ever wants to learn books 9 or 10, and 9 and 10, I will be more than happy to sit down with her and go through it. But at this point, she is free from it, from me having her do it. But people with older students, don't worry about how long it might be taking them. Just keep going. It's really helping them. Okay, on to book 5 again. Okay, so book 5 teaches prefixes and suffixes, which I felt for all of my kids was easier for them to understand at this point in their life. And then also in book 5, something that you see that's new is it goes through phrases. Okay, so in books 3 and 4, they used to read sentences and then they would break down the sentence. What's the who phrase? What's the did what phrase? And what's the add-on phrase? Those are the 3 phrases that they had. But now she adds more to it. And you have who phrase, did what phrase, is doing what, where, when, why, or how. And it looks like this now instead. Instead of taking sentences and kind of chopping off where those are, they actually read a phrase and then tell you what kind of phrase it is. And then read the next phrase and tell you what kind of phrase it is. So they do this through books 5, 6, 7, and 8. I haven't opened up book 9 yet, so I don't know what that looks like. But I know 5 through 8, they do these phrases. At first, when my oldest daughter got into these phrases, she hated them. She hated them so bad, but she had been introduced to language and to learning adverbs and adjectives and prepositional phrases and all that stuff, and she hated it, and diagramming sentences. And I don't know if it's because she has dyslexia, but it just didn't go well with her. I mean, there was tears sometimes. It was bad teaching that. So when she saw this, she equaled those together. But they don't necessarily equal together. But my other kids, they didn't do all that diagramming of sentences yet. We weren't that far in teaching them before we figured out they had dyslexia. So doing it this way first really helps to teach the grammar. So in Barton Reading, they don't teach grammar, but they do teach this, so they teach them the phrases, and then they'll say like the who phrase, but it is super easy then to say, okay, the who phrase is a noun. You know, the did what phrase, it's a verb. It's so much easier to go from there to just then telling them what the proper grammar name of that is than to go, for me, in my experience, with a dyslexic child and a struggling learner. It was really hard to teach language arts. So it was so much easier to teach, or grammar, I should say. It was so much easier to teach it this way with Barton doing phrases, and then they're just like, oh, all right, got it, sure, no problem, and then we just move on. So that is new for book 5, to do phrases this way, as opposed to the other way they did in book 4. What else? Phrases, suffixes, prefixes, and as you can see here, okay, so these, if you guys haven't seen these before, if you buy your curriculum from Barton Reading, you can go onto the Barton Reading website and get some help, some more resources. And one of those resources is flashcards for the spelling rules. So, and then I always print mine out on blue paper, because remember, blue paper is easier for people with dyslexia to read. I suggest the light blue color, like this. They ran out of light blue, and I got this brilliant blue, stuck with it for book 5. But, so I highly suggest these. Now, I go through these, I try to remember go through these every time I sit down with my child for a lesson, and just go through at least a few of them. It doesn't even have to be the book they're in. It can be some of the previous books they learned too, because you need to keep reminding them so they remember it. Keeps it fresh in their mind, keeps it fresh in your mind as you're teaching it as well. So in book 5, there's only 7 rules. If I'm looking at that correctly. Yeah, I think there's only 7 rules. But in book 4, here was book 4's, there's 21 rules. So quite a difference. And so I just really felt like book 5 was so much easier to teach, so much easier for them to understand. Most of the time with book 5, I've taught 3 children all the way through book 5, and it was no problem. It was good. So after you get through book 4, congratulations, have some ice cream and relax a little bit. You go through book 5 still consistently, but it's not going to be as brutal and intense as book 4. Okay, so that's the good news. Oh, also I wanted to point out that if you haven't seen them, these are the tiles for the suffixes. They're green. And these are the tile for the prefixes. They are orange. And you get those with book 5. Okay. Let's move on to book 6. Oh, I just want to show you for both of them that, so this is the boxes you will get them in. Here's book 5 box, and this was in there. And I actually just continue to keep mine in here, along with the DVD that was in here. And then I take out the students' instruction papers, and I put them in a binder. Just put them in a binder like this. And I make any copies of the student pages so they can write on them. And then I will also have the original that I don't have them write on, because I do plan on selling my set after I teach all 4 of my kiddos and I know that they've got it down. But that's just an idea of how you can do it. You can use binders too. Okay, on to book 6. I will warn you, book 6 is tough, just like 4. Books 4, 6, and 8 I felt have been the toughest. Book 6 is again a little bit of a longer book. It's got 14 lessons in it, just like book 4. Book 6, though, is very useful. It is the silent E syllables that you're learning. And there's silent E's in a lot of words, right? So it's good to know. So, and as far as rules, I didn't number them. I started to number them. It's got more than 18 rules, I can tell you that. Probably about 20 or 21, just like book 4. Okay, so that was book 6. And in book 6, it works more on spelling. So I have one of my kids is a great reader, just really, really a good reader. But spelling is where dyslexia gets her. And so this book is heavy on spelling rules. And so this book was a little bit more of a challenge for her than the other books. She even was okay with book 4, but book 6, really heavy on spelling rules. Okay, so that's again why they have so many spelling rules for the blue papers there. So one thing I would suggest to help you with the spelling rule, because there's so many spelling rules for book 6, and you can also get some of these types of games for book 4 as well. I won't go over exactly how these games work. I was planning on doing a review for each of these games later. But when you get your Barton set, inside of it there is a little paper, kind of like a brochure or something, that tells you about some other resources you can get, and one of them is spelling games, and that's where I got these. This one says Level 6 Lessons 5 through 13 Spelling Rules game, and it helps them to remember how to spell the words. So there's that one, which has been helpful. I also have one like this for book 4 to help them remember those. And there's this hopping along game. It's more of a board game with like a little frog that you hop along when you spell the words right. And this one comes with levels 5, 6, and 7. So it's got 3 levels in the one game. And you can separate those out so that you just do whichever level you need to work on. So I do suggest having those games available so that you can review those lessons and be able to master those skills taught in them. Okay, so I would just say with book 6, have some patience with it, have some patience with your child. And I was also going to mention, okay, so when Susan Barton is doing the videos, I don't know if you guys all watch the videos too. I don't know, it would be hard for me to teach without watching those videos that she has that comes with these. But when she's doing those, notice she's teaching another adult who's actually another tutor. And I've seen someone comment on this before online, but that's not always necessarily real life. Like, I don't know, because she always suggests doing 30 to 45 minutes for a lesson. I don't ever know if she gets done with one entire lesson in one sitting. I never do. Ever. Never. I never do. Because kids are kids, right? I mean, sometimes they're spacing off. Sometimes you need to get their attention. Sometimes they didn't understand what you said exactly, and so you need to re-explain it to them a little bit more. Or sometimes they have questions or comments about some of the things that you say. Or sometimes when it's their turn to read a paper, they might be struggling, and it might take them like 20 minutes just to read that paper. Or, when they're writing, they drop their pencil like how many times during the lesson. So I do not get through an entire lesson in one sitting with any one of my children. It's usually 2 or 3 sittings per lesson. So if that makes sense. So when you see that it's like 10 or 14 lessons, that's still going to be a bit of time. And then, of course, doing the review sheets in between, which I usually do at least one review sheet in between. And then, depending on how many of the stories that you read, it can vary the time that it takes from one child to another on how long it takes to get through a book. I've seen that question a lot. How much time does it take? Okay, so I think I've covered it, the basic idea of it. If you guys have more questions about it, please go ahead and ask. I will do my best to answer those questions. And I was thinking about coming up with a frequently asked questions about Barton reading. So if you have questions, maybe you can throw that on there and I can do a video on that sometime too. All right, I hope that this has helped you understand the Barton Reading and Spelling levels 5 and 6. Thank you so much for watching.